Okay, if you're learning Spanish, you know this feeling all too well. You go to say a super simple sentence, and bam, you're stuck. Should I use ser or estar? They both mean to be, right? But picking the wrong one can totally change what you're trying to say. Well, today, we're going to clear that up for good. So here's our game plan. First, we'll dig into the to be dilemma itself. Then, and this is a big one, we're going to debunk that old permanent versus temporary rule you probably learned. We'll give you a much better way to think about it, cover the times you always use ser and always use estar, dive into some really cool meaning-changing words, and finally show you how to turn this whole thing into your own Spanish superpower. You know, the root of the problem is pretty simple. In English, we just have one verb, to be. But Spanish? It splits that idea into two verbs, ser and estar. And look, this isn't just some random grammar rule designed to make your life harder. It's actually a feature of the language that gives you a level of detail and nuance that English just doesn't have. Let's try a little experiment. Take a simple sentence. The food is good. In English, that's crystal clear. But if you were to translate that into Spanish, what would you say? Which verb would you choose? Think about it for a sec, because the answer really gets to the heart of the matter. So, what's the answer? Well, here's the trick. There are two totally correct ways to say it, and your choice completely changes the meaning. If you're talking about how the food tastes, right here, right now, you'd use estar. La comida está buena. But if you're talking about the inherent quality of the restaurant itself, you'd use ser. El restaurante es bueno. See that? Same English words, two totally different ideas in Spanish. All right, now, if you've ever taken a Spanish class, I'm willing to bet you were taught the classic rule for this problem: permanent versus temporary. It's what everybody learns at first, but I'm here to tell you that rule is broken. The advice sounds simple enough, right? If it's something permanent, like your height, you use ser. If it's something temporary, like being tired, you use estar. And honestly, it works, until it doesn't. And when it breaks in a big way. And here it is. The ultimate rule breaker. Think about it. Death is about as permanent as you can get. So, by the old rule, you'd expect to use ser. But no. In Spanish, you say él está muerto. He is dead, using estar. This one single example just completely shatters that old permanent versus temporary rule. We need a better way. So, let's just throw that old rule out and replace it with this golden rule. Think of it like this. Ser describes the essence, what something is, and estar describes the state or condition, how something is. See? Death isn't an essential characteristic of who a person was, it's the final state they are in. This one little shift in perspective is a total game changer. Okay, now that we have our new essence versus state mindset, let's get into some clear-cut uses. We'll start with ser, and to make this super easy to remember, just think of the acronym DOCTOR. DOCTOR stands for date, occupation, characteristic, time, origin, and relationship. And if you think about it, this makes perfect sense. These are all part of the essence of something. They define what a person or thing is at its core. Now, this helps us avoid one of the most common mistakes out there. Usually, you use estar for location, but the location of an event, like a concert or a party, is actually considered a defining characteristic of that event. It's part of its identity. That's why you always ask, ¿Dónde es el concierto? Not está. Okay, let's flip to the other side of the coin, estar. If ser has doctor to remember its core uses, then estar, which is all about states and conditions, has its own handy acronym, place. So place stands for position, location, action, condition, and emotion. Are you seeing the pattern here? None of these things define what something is deep down. They all describe how it is, or where it is, or what it's doing in a specific moment. They're all states. Here's another one that trips people up all the time: marital status. In English, we think of it as part of our identity, but in Spanish, being married is seen as a condition that results from an action, getting married. It's a state you're in, not a permanent characteristic. That's why you say, yo estoy casado. And the A in place, that's for action. Anytime you want to say that something is happening right this second, what we call the present progressive, you absolutely need estar. So estoy hablando means I am speaking. It describes the state of action you're in right now. Okay, this is my favorite part. This is where it gets really, really cool. There's a whole group of adjectives in Spanish that completely change their meaning depending on whether you use ser or estar with them.
Getting these down is like unlocking a secret level of fluency.
Let's start with the word listo. If you say someone is listo, you're saying they are smart. They're clever. That's a fundamental characteristic. But if you say they está listo, it means they're ready. That's a temporary condition. I mean, how cool is that? Same word, two totally different meanings.
We kind of saw this one earlier with the food example. Ser bueno is about being a good person, a moral person. That's a core trait. But estar bueno or buena, that's a state. For food, it means it's delicious. For a person, it means they're attractive. Yeah, that's definitely a mix-up you want to avoid.
Here's another perfect one. If you say la manzana es verde, you mean the apple is literally the color green. That's its characteristic. But if you say la manzana está verde, it means the apple is unripe. It's in an unripe state. You can even use it for people to say they're green or inexperienced.
And of course, the same logic works for the opposite, malo. To ser malo is to be an evil person, or for an object to be of bad quality. That's a characteristic. But to estar malo means something tastes bad, or for a person that they're sick. It's a temporary state of being unwell.
And this pattern just keeps going. Ser rico means you're wealthy. Estar rico means it's delicious. Ser abierto means you're an open-minded person. Estar abierto means a door is physically open. Ser moreno is to be dark-haired or dark-skinned, but estar moreno means you're tan from the sun. It always comes back to essence versus state. So let's step back for a second. What did we just do? You haven't just memorized another boring grammar rule. You've actually gained this incredible tool for expressing yourself with so much more precision. This isn't a problem to overcome anymore. It's an advantage you can use. Look, if you remember just one thing from all of this, let it be this. Forget permanent versus temporary. Just let it go. It's going to fail you. The real key, the golden rule, is shifting your thinking to characteristic versus state. If you're talking about what something is, use ser. If you're describing how something is, use estar. That's it. With this new way of thinking, you're not just going to avoid mistakes. You're going to start speaking with this incredible flair and precision. So here's my challenge to you. Which one of these meaning-changing words are you going to try out this week? Go on, experiment with it, and get a feel for what it's like to use your new superpower.